Athens was an ancient Greek city-state that had huge prestige and a major interest in many forms of literature. Not only that, but they felt that they were more superior to their fellow neighbors. It was the first of the Greek city-states to fully develop a democracy. Some of the major forms of literature the city-state attracted was writers, artists, and many philosophers. As shown in the pictures above, some of the most famous structures in Athens include the Acropolis, and a structure that sits atop the Acropolis, the Parthenon. When Athenian children were infants, both boys and girls were the same. Not until they were 7, both boys and girls would have different responsibilities and rights to take on. As shown in the picture above, one of the rights boys had at age 7 was that they could finally attend school. There have been many scenes in pottery that illustrate boys attending school like the one in the picture. This picture illustrates the reconstructed face of an 11-year-old Athenian girl. While the boys were at school, girls did not have the right to be educated and had to stay home. Girls' responsibility was to learn how to be a mother, weave, work, take care of children, and learn how to cook. Just like in any other Greek city-state, men in Athens had the most dominant role in public life. Men who were not born in Athens were called metic and did not have the right to vote, but the ones that were born there did have that right. The male citizens had the same responsibilities as the metic males, but were also responsible on voting and serving in the government, and had to attend assembly. Another right for the men in Athens was that only men could play in the Olympics, and also only men could be part of their government. Since the ancient Athenian woman did not have much to do, her life was extremely simple. They did not have many rights, and their main responsibility was to stay home and take care of their children. The only way they got close to voting was through their male partner. One of the main responsibilities was to have a baby, and if they could not, it would have been thought as if they were cursed. Similar to Athens, Sparta was a Greek city-state, but instead of having a goal of achieving literature, they focused mainly on war. Unlike Athens, in ancient Sparta no great literature arose, but strong citizens and warriors did. The armies in Sparta were well disciplined and educated, a bit small, but mainly hard to fight. While the girls stayed at home with more freedom than in Athens, the boys had to leave their parents and their houses and sent out to barracks. Once in the barracks, the boys' rights decreased mildly. They were not fed well, and if they took food, they would be punished. They had the responsibility to maintain toughness, endure, and learn how to fight. Even though they were mostly taught how to fight and how to maintain their toughness, they were also allowed to learn reading and writing. Similar to Athens, the men in Sparta were the most powerful. A man's main responsibility in Sparta was to train and fight in wars. When they were around 19, they were taught survival techniques and were expected to learn them. Once they were 30 years old, they were thought as citizens and adults and had a responsibility to marry. The man was supposed to remain in their barracks until he was 30. He could marry before, but then he would have to sneak out to see his wife. They all belonged to different groups whose responsibilities were to meet and dine together. Compared to other Greek city-states, Spartan women had many more rights and were much stronger. Other Greek city-states did not agree with the things that the women in Sparta did, like they could own their own properties and be very strong. Also, unlike in Athens, the women could get their own education. The women in Sparta sometimes became to be a rich member of society, because if their husbands died during war, they would inherit their land and most of their money. Even though these women had much Even though the women in Sparta had much more freedom, they still had to take care of their babies and household things. The women in Sparta had the responsibility to be fit, so the babies could be born good soldiers and with good health. Lastly, unlike Athens, the women in Sparta could go outside and talk with the men about politics and athletics. Finally, Sparta and Athens are two memorable city-states, and even though they were so close to each other, their people's rights and responsibilities were different and alike in many ways.